So you want to be a gardener? Great. That's what I'm here for. So order of business number one is to choose the right seeds and crops that you want to grow. It's a three-step process, and in the first step, you need to choose the company that you want to order from, company or companies. It's very important to find a reputable seed company that has high-quality seeds. What do I mean by high-quality seeds? Well, they're seeds that are responsibly grown, maintained, stored, free of disease. If you don't choose a company that puts a lot of effort into those qualities, you could be getting bad seeds and you're going to fail before you even start. So you try to find a reputable company. What is a reputable company? Well, check out their websites, check out their catalogs, check out their reviews. Most companies know how important seed quality is to their customers, so oftentimes they will put things in their catalogs or their websites detailing the processes that they take to make sure that you are going to get a quality product. If you're looking for examples, one of my favorites is Johnny's out of Maine. Their catalog is fantastic. It's colorful, has a ton of information on each seed, variety, or crop. It has growing information that can help you plan, and they have a fantastic website, and it's even better than their catalog. They do a very good job at detailing their business towards the residential customer. While they sell commercially, they do a fantastic job for the home gardener. Another one I use is Harris Seeds out of upstate New York. These are just a few examples, but there are a lot of them out there, so feel free to peruse around. Maybe some are closer to you, and if you live in other parts of the country, they might sell seeds more appropriate to where you're growing them. It's things that you just want to keep an eye out for when you're looking for them. I'd also recommend ordering from several companies. It's oftentimes one company is not going to have every seed you want to grow. So try to diversify who you order from, and that way if one doesn't have it or stops growing it, or even if the company goes out of business, which does happen, you can switch to another company you've already developed a relationship for. So now that you've completed step one, step two is choosing which crops you want to grow. And what do I mean by that? Well, there's a lot of different styles of crops. You have multi-pick crops, single-use crops. For example, when you grow a tomato plant, a cucumber plant, you're going to pick multiple fruits off that plant over the span of several weeks or months versus, say, a cauliflower plant, where you're only going to cut one head of cauliflower. So if you're limited in space, I might lean towards those multi-pick crops like tomatoes and peppers and cucumbers, things that will keep producing, so you get a little bit better return on your investment than you would, say, cauliflower or broccoli. Not to say don't grow these if you really love them, but just take that into consideration if space is an issue or time, things like that. One thing I will say is I don't put root crops in this category. And what do I mean by root crop? Well, for example, a carrot, a beet, a radish, things that are going to grow underground, you're only going to pick them once. So if you just listen to me, you might not grow those. However, you seed those so densely where in 12 inches you can have 12 radishes, give or take. So those aside, but for the plants that are above ground that take up a lot of space, you'll want to consider that. It can be a daunting task to look through tons of crops and catalogs trying to figure out what to grow. Don't let it be. This is the fun part. Me, for example, I love seed shopping, so I'll take 2-3 weeks in the winter sitting home in front of the TV on the weekends and kind of picking out what I'd like to grow. Not to say that it has to take you that long. I could do it all in one day, but I really enjoy it. So make the most of it. And if you do it in the winter when things are slow, you'll have plenty of time to get your seeds in. You won't be rushing. It's a much better process than trying to order your seeds April 1st and figure out everything you know. And for that example, some companies sell out of seeds. So it's better to do it in the winter while there's still plenty of stock than in the spring when everyone else is ordering their seeds. Now, if this all sounds confusing and you're already overwhelmed, don't worry. I want this to be easy for you. So in one of my next videos, I'm actually going to go through all the seeds and the varieties that I ordered, so you could just copy me or use it as an example or help fill a void if you can't choose between several crops. So now that you've done the first two steps, you've chosen your company or companies, and now you've picked which crops you'd like to grow, you have to choose the varieties of those crops. And what do I mean by that? Well, let's say tomatoes, for example, if you want to choose to grow tomatoes. Well, let's break tomatoes down. There's big tomatoes, there's cherry tomatoes, there's Roma tomatoes. There's orange tomatoes, there's pink tomatoes, there's yellow tomatoes. There's indeterminate tomatoes, meaning they just keep growing up tall. And there's bush tomatoes that grow to a certain height and stop. So what I mean by this is while you've chosen to grow tomatoes, now you have to choose which varieties of the tomatoes you want to grow. So how do you pick the right variety? Well, there's a lot of information in every catalog or website under each specific variety. Look for things like days to harvest, disease resistance, growth habits, customer reviews, taste. All of these things can factor into which varieties you prefer to grow. I like to compare them and see which one fits my needs. Look for things that resonate with your geographical location, or maybe certain things are better with less maintenance. Other things might require a lot more maintenance. All of this should be readily available in information. And a lot of catalogs or websites, especially Johnny's for example, actually highlights certain varieties in every crop that are their basic grower favorites or their popular varieties. So if you can't choose, or in the case of a tiebreaker, you can use that option. It also can't hurt to ask the company, "Hi, I live in Arizona, what's the best tomato?" A lot of them will tell you that because the tomato variety that grows best in the desert heat of Arizona isn't going to grow well in northern Maine with a shorter season, not as much sun. So all of these things will play into what you want. Again, don't let it be confusing. I'll show you the varieties I grow, and if you have any questions, just leave me a comment below and I'll do my best to point you in the right direction or help answer those things. Make sure you order the right amount of seeds. A lot of times you're only going to grow 3 or 4 tomato plants. You don't want to make the mistake of ordering 1,000 of them. It's just too many, it's a wasted money. Chances are you're not going to have enough years after to plant all 1,000. So just pay attention to that. A few moments ago I mentioned something called days to harvest when describing the information under certain varieties. This is very important and often overlooked. And basically what this number means is that under every variety you'll have a number, 60, 85, 110. And this means how long it takes from the time you put the seed in the soil to the time that you're picking ripe fruit. And most catalogs will illustrate this and tell you right up front so that you can make the best decision. So what do I mean by that? Well, there's 2 different ways. It's days to harvest from seed or days to harvest from transplant. Crops that are direct seeded, meaning the seed is put in its permanent growing location, such as carrots, beets, radishes, sometimes lettuce, things like that. The days to harvest is from when you put that seed in to when you're picking that crop. So if I take a carroty variety Romance and it has 75 days to harvest, that means it'll take 75 days under average growing conditions from the time I put the seed in the soil to the time I'm picking that ripe carrot. However, a lot of other plants, the days to harvest number is indicative of a transplant stage. And what do I mean by that? I mean, let's take tomatoes for example. If you have the tomato variety that says it's 80 days to harvest, that is not from when you seed that tomato plant. It's usually from when you transplant that tomato plant, because most people transplant tomatoes. So 80 days is not the right days to harvest for that tomato plant. That's how long it is from when you transplant it to when you're picking ripe fruit. How do you figure that out? Well, oftentimes there's a germination date and a little experience required. So that tomato variety that takes 80 days from transplant, it might take 40 days from the day I seed it to the day that it gets to transplant stage, which is about 3 to 5 inches. So if that takes 40 days, I have to add that to the 80 days that the catalog said. And that tomato plant is actually 120 days from the day I seed it to the day I harvest it. Why is this important? The reason I tell you this is because some crops take a long time. And if you live in a northern climate where you have a shorter growing season, or even in the southern climates where you just want a faster tomato, you would like to take this information into effect. For example, if you chose a variety that has 120 days of harvest for a tomato plant, you might look through the catalog, there might be a tomato that gets ready in 90 days. So why does that matter? Well, that's 30 days faster you're going to get a tomato than the other variety. Not to say you can't grow it, you can grow different tomatoes with different days to harvest, so you'll always have fresh tomatoes, but it's something you take into consideration. I don't want to wait 2-3 months for something if I can get a comparable variety sooner. And one more issue I'd like to just caution you about when you're looking in these websites and these catalogs under the varieties and descriptions is that just remember, these are companies at the end of the day trying to sell a product. So they're always going to put the nicest images up. They're going to have the best information like prolific grower, highest yields, sweetest tasting. And while they might be true, just remember, you know, the sweetest crop to me might not be the sweetest crop to you. The most prolific grower, well, growing and habitat is based on soil, fertilizer, location. Things that might grow well for me don't necessarily grow well for my neighbor or someone in a different state. So you'll have to use all of this information to best choose the crops for you. And that's why I really recommend, if you're growing tomatoes, if you're growing cucumbers, try a few different varieties at first, and you'll find the ones that grow the best. At the end of the year, you can kind of weed out the ones that didn't work, and you'll have the ones that kind of work the best for you. And sometimes this is a multi-year process. It's not just overnight. Like I said, if you want to follow my next video, I'll go over the things I grow that I have a proven track record that they are some of the best varieties for our area. So now that we have chosen our company or companies we want to order from, we have also chosen the crops we want to order. And thirdly, we decided on which varieties of those crops we want to order. Now you would submit your order and your seeds should be in shortly. When your seeds come in, the first thing you're going to want to do, that I'll bring this up to the camera, is I will write the year 22 on all of my seed packets that I get. That way, if things get lost or you have extra seed, more than you'll grow in a year, you can keep track of it year after year because you'll know when you received those. And if they start to get old, they're 5 years old, you might throw them away. Or if you had to order more seeds next year, you can use up the old seeds first and then move on to the newer seeds. The next thing I'll do is check them in off the order form. If you can see it right here. Basically, I want to make sure that I received the variety I ordered, the quantity that I ordered, and the price I agreed to pay. So I'll just check those off and making sure I get them. Now this is very important. If you notice here on the bottom, it says back ordered. Oftentimes, companies are not going to have every seed you want, whether their supplier didn't get them to them in time, whether there was a big buy and they just went out of stock. So items will come in back ordered. You don't want to lose track of these. So I'll circle them and I'll make myself a reminder to follow up with the company weekly, bi-weekly, depending on when you order them, to check the status of those seeds. And this is important because you have seed dates to meet. You can't wait until August for a tomato plant to come in. So what you'll do is follow up, and when it's nearing your seed date, if they still can't give you an answer, you're going to want to cancel that order and pivot to a different item so that you can get it here in time for your seed date. I like to store my seeds in little binders. Basically, I'll just buy a binder from Staples or Amazon. I'll have little plastic inserts, and I keep all of my seeds in a nice, orderly, alphabetical fashion. They're never going to get lost. I'll basically know where they always are. I can put them and store them very easily. I can bring them to the greenhouse or your shed or your garage or wherever you may be and seed them. A little pro tip is I'll use an old COVID gator, hopefully this is no more, and I'll just wrap it around the binder. And that way, if I lift it upside down, those seed packets don't come falling out of my binder. And finally, you're going to want to store these seeds in a dark, cool environment. Your fridge could work, a basement, garage. You don't want them to freeze. If they freeze, it'll negatively affect your germination rates, and that's not good. So you want them about 36 degrees to 50 degrees. Try and keep it in that range, and you should have a long shelf life. So hopefully that helps you in your first step of gardening, ordering seeds and checking them in and planning. If you have any questions, comment below. I'll do my best to answer them. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and you'll automatically be notified of my next video, which will be, I'll go over all of the seeds I ordered, the varieties, and some little notes, what I liked about them, what I don't like about them, and little tips for some record keeping for you. Should be a pretty quick video, and I'm excited for this journey. See you next time. you need to unpack your crops.
That is not step 3.
What does a nosy pepper do?
It gets all up in your business.
Take across the span. So now that you've chosen your company to order your seeds from, you'll want to.
I already lost where I am. I already did that. The crops, the what?
So it can be quite a long process to choose which crops you want to go. Make it fun.
Can't do this now, Stephen.